What's going on, Ultra Buddies? We're back again for another meta analysis breakdown kind of thing of the Japan meta for week, I think, 10 through 16. No, is that
Yeah,
right?
sounds about right. April 10, April 16.
Yeah. A little
Week
slow
3.
on this one. So, just a quick tier list overview. Nothing much has changed. Deckers kind of snuck onto C tier.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go into the breakdown. As far as decks go, not really a lot changing in terms of actual deck lists too, so I'm not really going to show those today because we're also a little short on time. But yeah, I think let's dive into it a little bit. And again, huge shout out to at UCG Tournament on Twitter/X for accumulating the data. It's really cool to look at, especially because we don't have a lot of events to look at in the US here, so we can kind of see a little bit about what's going on. So yeah, not a ton has changed. I think there's some interesting things to look at for top four. Gaia, G, Tiga, Blazar, Triggered. I think Triggered Dark is slowly moving up the rankings here. But Gaia, Ghoul, Jeed, and Tiga Blazar have been kind of our top three for a bit, and then they are also our top three in tournament wins. Have you noticed anything interesting you'd like to point out?
Yeah, it's definitely settled. If I look at the
Mhm.
percentages, we try and look at the numbers each of these weeks, and
Mhm.
I feel like between the decks that people are playing in top 4 and then the decks that are actually winning, a
Mhm.
lot of the percentages have really started to even out. Like, okay,
Yeah.
16% of people playing Gaias, 15% of people playing, winning them in the Galaxy Cup.
Mhm.
Similarly, 13% for G, 11.8%. So pretty much,
Mhm.
it really feels like any deck that's going in the top 4 has an equal shot at representing the Galaxy Cup wins.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
These top four
balanced
are
out.
definitely the four decks defining the meta, at least in my mind. Like they're all extremely strong. And there's also like an insane tail end of decks that are you know, just good. Like one thing that kind of caught my eye here was Mephiles Bolton snuck in
Mm-hmm.
to the top. And I know it's only 2 wins, but it wasn't even represented here on our top four placements, which means it got less than four tops. It's got less than four top fours. And so at most it got four of them, and two of them managed to convert those into like a Galaxy Cup win, which is, two. It's only 2 wins, but it's 2 wins that
Still two
over other
wins.
decks that like Gaiagul and Jetus or Tiga Blazar probably. So that's definitely an interesting one. Gaia also snuck in here, so I guess there's like a difference between Gaiagul and Mono Gaia.
Mono.
So I'm kind of interested to see. I'd love to be able to see like how if you add the Mono Guys on here, how that looks. Um, but yeah, I definitely kind of solidified the top four, and then after that's a little bit. What happened to Blazer Garon here? Blazer Garon had a lot of. Well, at least he had a lot of top fours, and then it just totally fell off. It did not
That is
get
true.
any
Yeah.
wins, which is I was trying to figure out what's happening. Yeah, that's a little unfortunate for Blazer Garon. I have been doing some testing for that. It's definitely a strong deck, but sometimes you don't get the charge, and if you don't have any charge, it's kind of a rough time. Um, yeah, and then Decker kind of popped up. People are realizing that the Decker's still good, kind of something I said. One thing that I thought would be fun is to kind of compare this week to last week to see how things have changed, just maybe a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So this is this week, the Japanese pie charts. I think it's a little easier to compare the pie chart. So Gaia Ghoul, Tiga Blazar, both at 8, Jeet at 6, Trigger Dark at 4, and Decker at 4. But last week, um, it was kind of similar, right? Gaia Ghoul at 10, Jeet at 8, but Belial Zeton was much higher. Belial Zeton dropped all the way down to 2, so people basically stopped playing this deck within a week, or at least it stopped winning. Maybe they're still playing
Well,
it, but it stopped. It stopped winning, right?
I mean, also, like if we look at the table too, there's just fewer
Mm-hmm.
Belial Zetons in the top 4.
True.
Either
27
people,
last week
yeah,
and 9
only,
this week.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
people have all either started to migrate away from Belial Zetons towards these like Gaia, Tiga Blazar, G
mhm.
core decks. and maybe whether it's
Well, it's
bad
definitely a
experiences.
Guy Goal is definitely dropping off a bit. Like last week was 50, this week is 30. So it's kind of interesting to see the play. Like, I don't really have play rates, but I feel like the top four is closer to like how many people are actually playing the deck.
Mm-hmm.
But it also, it could be, but there's total 300 last time and 200 this time. So
Yeah.
there is a big, we have to kind of adjust for that. I can't do that in my head. But yeah, Trigger is at 4, G at 6 wins, Trigger at 4 wins, Decker at 4 wins. Last week, it looks like so G. Sorry, I confused myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so G busted both up a little. Trigger Dark went down a little bit in number of Galaxy Cup wins, but remember that's just less overall, so I could have found for it. But Decker held strong at 4. Tiga Blazer, I feel like, is the story for this week as well.
Mm-hmm.
So Belio Zeton kind of got nuked off. Not really nuked, but it dropped off a lot. The Tiga Blazer picked up a lot. He had 18 players out of 300 top scoring at the last time, and it's like 13 out of 200. So kind of like a similar amount, but way less, a third of the total. And then it also jumped to second place in total wins with 8 Galaxy Cup wins over 4. So it doubled the wins there. And you can see that in the numbers too, where like it goes from 6%. We'll go back here for the English people. It goes from 6% representation in top 4 to 15% representation for tournament wins. So Tiga Blazer definitely on the rise. And Tiga or Blazer is gonna get more stuff eventually. They get,
Yeah.
you can't hold this deck down.
I think a lot with this deck too, specifically Tiga Blazar, is the matchup knowledge. I feel like the longer the sets out,
yeah,
the more familiar are with, okay, I'm playing against Gaia Ghoul. I need to swap my Tigas away from the Gaias. I need to keep my Blazars here, or you're playing against Trigger Dark. Trigger Dark has some interesting ways it can, block your 18k Tiga swap. So you might want to think about how you play around that as well. So as the set goes on, Tiga Blazers definitely feels like a deck that you just get better and better at. And then you just see those translate to more wins.
Yeah, definitely. Like when you need to take lead, when you need to play aggressively, and I think it helps that at least some of this meta was around before, like Jeed. So the Tiga Blazer people they already kind of learned how to fight against Jeed a little bit. Now they get to kind of capitalize that, take advantage of that again, and then just really only have to learn against Gaia Ghoul and Trigger Dark. Yeah, that's I think that's pretty much it. It might be a quick one. We don't really have the decks to go through this time because it's pretty much the same. You've seen the Gaia Ghouls now. The new triple rare, so strong. Has some crazy high highs, crazy low lows. That's the Gaia Ghoul classic. Jeed again hasn't changed much. I think people are starting to include a little bit of the kaiju killers. Probably why we saw Belial Zeton maybe dip down a little bit as Jeed players get more comfortable, because there's definitely a good chunk of people who are like, I'm not even going to change my deck. Keep it the same. Tiga Blazer hasn't really changed. I think more people are playing the basic that gives plus 1k. I feel like I see that being a little bit more common, but that doesn't feel like necessarily like a meta adjustment as much as it is like maybe we should have been doing this before.
Yeah, I think it was always like a really good number, and I think with all of the additional 18Ks to consider, there's more Gaias, there's more what do you call it, Trigger Darks, or sorry, Glitter triggers. Just having that extra 1,000 is just more important than ever.
Yeah. Belio Zeton we kind of saw drop off. I think one of the key things from the Japanese builds that I've seen, which I plan to do a deck profile for that later this week, on like my style of it, which is that they don't run any scenes. And I think that's it's an interesting choice, but I think it makes a lot of sense. Like you don't, you kind of need to stack your deck full of Zetons to mill with the Zeton. And you also don't want to hit scenes with Belial, like Kaiser Mantle Belial. So yeah, it kind of makes sense to drop the scenes in that deck, and I think it makes a little bit more sense there. Trigger Dark pretty much builds itself, I think. You can make some adjustments to the ratios, but the core cards are all the same. There's not like a lot of tech. Blazar Garen, I honestly haven't checked the builds much here, but it didn't get anything new. I can't really imagine it changes a lot. Max Zed, I don't think we showed a build for that. But you can probably look at Gonkun's old Z Ginga builds, and you pretty much just swap in the maxes there.
Yeah.
Just set up a 19k early and then play Z. And then Decker, I think there's been some changes for Decker, but I haven't really dived into those. And then let's close it out with some final thoughts of like, were there any decks like last week or so we did like kind of not hot take decks, but like some spicy decks that showed some deck lists, some people that are using decks that could be good, but we ended up not seeing them. Like Tiga Nexus is definitely one of the ones that is at least on my mind for that.
Yeah, Tiga Nexus is definitely. I mean, that one I was playing around with. It's a fun deck. It definitely feels much more consistent than the Tiga Nexus decks you've had in the past. But it just like I feel like it has higher highs than maybe Tiga Blazar, but
yeah.
Like that scene destruction is really strong in certain matchups, but I mean G doesn't really need the scenes. Trigger Dark does use them, but like Gaia Ghoul can do a lot of bouncing without scenes. Belial's not using scenes. G doesn't run scenes, so you just don't get the full mileage with this meta at least. If there's more Trigger Darks running around that are heavily relying on the scenes, maybe it makes sense to see more Tiga Nexus. But as it is, if anything, Tiga Blazar, you're running your own scenes more to amp up like the level up the Scarred.
Yeah. I feel like it's pretty good for like Tiga Blazar or Tiga Mirror matches where you can deny Shining ones or deny Scarred. But yeah, that one I thought was kind of wanted to see a little bit more of it. It's been a hot minute since the Tiga Nexus guys were out here. I think Max Blazar could not show up this week, and that one I did look it up. It was just a Blazar deck with maxes, just like mono Blazar. Not really maxes, but like Blazar max, right? And mono Blazar has a lot of. I mean, you'd be seeing it more if it was actually a good deck or a consistent deck. So I think it kind of got a high roll week. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Any other thoughts on this week? I feel like we're trying to solidifying what the top decks will be, and I kind of expect. I would expect in the next week that like this kind of unknown chunk shrinks a lot more into these kind of top four.
Yeah, I kind of hope the unknown chunk stays at this size. It does like really represent that there's a lot of decks that we aren't talking about that you could definitely take and play and do very well in Galaxy Cup. Like, there's Mephless Bolton on the set, but people have been winning their local events and whatnot with Mephless Kaiju decks. People can put together like a Red King Joe deck, do well.
Yeah, I've seen like it's like Mephless, Alien Metron, Alien Guts, 5 King Joes, and like something else. It's like a crazy concoction, but people are getting wins with it. So
yeah, so you can play those like people trying out like different Dyna combinations, like Nexus related things, X decks. Like I hope that category just stays large because it just represents that you can really play what you want in this set with those new decks and still like not have to play Gaia, have to play G, have to play Trigger Dark to do well.
Yeah, I think last set it definitely felt more like it was a lot of top heavy. Like it was really hard for decks to fight both Decker and G'd and really thrive. And now we've got like a lot of different decks that can fight on that level, and then also a lot of decks that can kind of sneak in there too, which is going to be interesting. All right. Thanks for watching, tuning in with us for this week. We'll see what next week has in store for the meta. And then, of course, look forward to some deck profiles coming out, like the Belial Zeton. I haven't fully thought through. I think I'll talk about the Taiga deck I put together because I think it'd be fun just to showcase that a little bit. But that's all I've got on my mind. Maybe a Mephiles Bolton too. But some stuff we gotta keep a little hush hush. Sorry. All right, and yep, that's it. Bye.
All right, bye.